The trade war between the US and China has raged for 10 months, and both sides have hit each other where it hurts.
You know, the pain's getting worse for us. It's going to come to a point where this fall we're not going to be able to pay bills, or we're going to have to sell things to pay bills, and that's really bad business.
Beijing has raised tariffs on American farm goods in retaliation for higher US duties on Chinese products. China is the biggest buyer of US soybeans, but the trade war has caused prices to slump to their lowest in more than 40 years. On Thursday, the White House announced $16 billion in aid for farmers.
It all comes from China. We'll be taking in, over a period of time, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and charges to China, and our farmers will be greatly helped.
Trump says he's willing to restart negotiations, but Beijing has issued an ultimatum, saying Washington should reverse its latest attacks. That includes a recent ban on US companies from selling products to tech firm Huawei, the world's leading supplier of telecommunications equipment.
China is open to dialogue, but for negotiations to be meaningful, they must be sincere. A mutually beneficial agreement must be based on mutual respect, equality, and mutual benefit. We hope that the US will take a serious attitude towards returning to the negotiating table.
Washington has accused Beijing of using Huawei gear to spy on other governments, an accusation Huawei has denied. But Trump has described the firm as dangerous. He said the lifting of the Huawei sanctions could be a part of an agreement, but he's in no rush to get a deal done. As losses mount, soybean growers in Iowa say they're not sure how much longer they can wait before they're forced to sell their farms. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
And for more on this, Nick Harper joins us from New York. Nick, during his press conference, President Trump seemed to suggest that he's in no rush to reach a deal. Are any fresh meetings on the cards?
That's right, yes. That one big suggestion that he doesn't see an end in sight, that bailout package to the farmers, $16 billion, that's a very substantial amount of money, suggesting that he sees this as a protracted fight and one that won't end anytime soon. Of course, those farmers have been hurt. The Chinese, because of the tariffs that are in place, are no longer buying quite as much soy, corn and pork from the US. So Donald Trump passing that money on to them to help. At the same time, there was other contradictions from the US president, because he did say that he expected the trade talks and this whole trade dispute to end fast, but gave no real evidence, because no, there are no meetings on the cards at this point. Nothing has been scheduled. We heard from the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on Wednesday saying that there was nothing in place. We had some trade talks in Washington a couple of weeks ago. They broke down with no deal in sight. And at this stage, nothing more is scheduled. The big problem seems to be that neither side wants to compromise. There may be one small glimmer of hope, though. Donald Trump will be meeting with China's President Xi Jinping at the end of June on the sidelines of G20 in Japan. It's not clear whether they will be able to resolve things then, and at this stage, their trade representatives are not sitting down before then to try and hammer out a deal. So Donald Trump flip-flopping between the two, saying that things could end fast, but also putting financial packages in place that seem to suggest that he doesn't see this ending within the next few weeks or months.
Hedging his bets there. What has China's reaction been to the president's latest comments?
Well, as you can imagine, they're not exactly convinced or that impressed by what he had to say. We heard overnight from the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang. He said that he was not sure of President Trump's meaning in relation to what he said during that press conference on Thursday afternoon at the White House. Of course, bear in mind that China has been angered by the treatment of the Chinese telecoms giant Huawei. They're not happy that the US has essentially blacklisted them. The White House saying that US companies should not be buying or selling or having any business dealings with Huawei. On top of that, Donald Trump in his press conference called them very dangerous as a company. The Foreign Ministry spokesman had more to say on that. He said that US politicians are continually fabricating rumors about Huawei, and they've never produced any evidence of what they've said. President Trump, in again another contradictory statement, saying that Huawei is very dangerous, but also saying that potentially they could become part of the trade negotiations, that the US US may be willing to drop that blacklist status against the company and restart business dealings with them.
Nick Harper from New York, thank you.